Hello, everyone. Thank you for playing the recording for chapter 10. We missed the previous class, but today we'll be looking at objectives for Windows installation. I want to believe we're on with our chapter exams, and by now we should have finished chapter 1 to 9. So let's quickly look at the objective of this chapter. We'll be looking at the modern operating system, explaining operating system requirement. We'll describe the function of operating system. We'll describe operating system software and hardware requirement. We'll explain the process of operating system. We'll look at disk management, how to create partition using disk management utility. We'll explain the disk management. And then we'll talk about install Windows. Under this, we'll looking at installation of Windows operating system, Windows, and then we'll describe custom installation options, describe the boot sequence and registry files. So let's start quickly. There are certain terms under the operating systems, features we need to look at. So the following terms are often used when describing the operating system. Remember, the operating system is that software that is run on your hardware device, your computer hardware device. In other words, is a fusion between the hardware uh, and the interface of what you can actually uh, do on your system. So we'll look at it from the multi-users. Two or more users have individual accounts that allow them to work with programs and verify devices at the same time. As for the multi-users, and then for multitasking, it simply means that the computer is capable of operating multiple applications at the same time. And these are terms that are used interchangeably. And then we have the multiprocessing. And when we talk about multiprocessing, what we're referring to is that operating system can support two or more CPUs. Okay, remember the CPU is the central processing unit. And multi-threading actually refers to program that is broken into smaller parts that are loaded as needed by the operating system. So multi-threading allows different parts of a program to run at the same time. So the OS boots the computer and manages the file system. The operating system can support more than one user, task, or CPU. Okay, so we need to get familiar with those terms. And then the basic function of operating system. The OS manages the interaction between the application and the hardware. That's purely the definition of the operating system here. The president creates a file structure on the hard disk drive to store our data. With the help of the operating system, you're able to create files, folders, and save. Uh, you save some of your document. So the operating system enables the user to interact with the software and hardware. The operating system locates an application and loads it into the RAM of the computer. So it's a bracelet that helps to identify the different applications and load them on the RAM for you to be able to use. For instance, the Microsoft operating system that runs on our system can only be called up with the help of the operating system. And once you click on that application, it is the help of the operating system that, that will load up that whole application software on the RAM and for you to have it as a running activity um, all the time. So we can see here that the operating system is crucial when it comes to uh, system usage. So here's the hardware access, you can see, and here's the file and folder management on our system, and then user interface, usually for this is Windows 8, Windows 10, and then application management. So here you have application management, which the operating system also helps. So we have different types of operating system. We have the Windows 7, we have Windows 8, the 8.1, Windows 10. And so you can see all these Windows operating systems have different features and things that you can do. And so it's like an upgrade. So you can see the extension from 7, 8, 8.1 to 10. At the moment, most folks have the system Windows 10. So most of the systems that are currently in the market are actually on Windows 10. Okay. So compatible software and hardware requirement. To make an operating system recommendation, a technician must review the budget constraint, learn how the computer will be used, determine which type of application will be installed, and whether a new computer may be purchased. These are some of the guidelines that help determine the best operating system for a customer. So you need to ask the customer what run on the system, what the customer wants to do before you actually think of a particular system to recommend. So recommendation is based on activities that will run on that system. So let's look at the customer requirement for an operating system. Under this, we're looking at the minimum hardware requirements and compatibility with the OS. And so let's see how compatible the hardware will be with the operating system at the minimum level. So the minimum level for Windows 10 is you have 1 gigahertz or faster for processor. Remember, the unit for measuring the processor is in hertz. And so the minimum processor speed for you to have on Windows 10 must be 1. Anything less than 1 will make your operating system unstable. For Windows 8.1, it's still 1 gigahertz or faster. Windows 7, same. And the minimum RAM you should have for a Windows 10 should be 1 gigabyte for a 32-bit and 2 gigabyte for a 64-bit operating system. We have two types of operating system, 32-bit or 64. So in this case, if your system is going to be 64, it's a 64-bit operating system, you must have a minimum of 2 gig RAM for that system to run effectively. And then 1 gig for 32-bit in the case of 8.1 operating system, and 2 gig for 64-bit still. So we can see that in terms of the RAM usage, it's almost the same for the 64-bit and the same for 32-bit. So in the hardware drive space, for the space, you're looking at 16 gigabyte for 32-bit or 20 gigabyte for a 64-bit. So the minimum storage you should have in that system should be 16 gig. So we could see that the same thing is applied for Windows 8.1 and Windows 7. For the graphics card, the DirectX or later with WDDM 1.0 driver. So you can see the driver that you must have when you must use this graphics. That if you're going to do a lot of graphics in the system, it is the minimum threshold you must operate. Anything less than this will not be suitable for this set of operating systems. Then display 800 by, that's talking about the display graphics on the screen. And so you can see the dimension here, 800 by 600, 1024 by 78. For Windows 7, it's not specified. Okay, that means it varies. Internet connection necessary to perform updates and some features. It's important. And necessary to perform update and some features same. So internet connection is needed across board. Okay, so 32-bit versus 64-bit processor architecture. A 32-bit, which is x86 by 32 processor description, processes multiple instructions using 32-bit address space. In other words, the bus wise 32-bit, support 32-bit operating system, support maximum 4 gig of RAM. So this processor must be used. This maximum of 4 gig of RAM. Then for the 64-bit by x86 by 64, looking at the difference between the 32-bit and 64-bit architecture processor here. It adds additional registers specifically for instructions that use a 64-bit address space. Is backward compatible with a 2-bit processor and supported 2-bit and 64-bit operating system. Okay. So checking OS compatibility. We need to check the compatibility of OS. An OS must be upgraded periodically to remain compatible. It has to. And that's the reason why you must be on the internet to ensure that it's upgraded with the latest hardware and software. Before upgrading the operating system, check the minimum hardware requirement of the new OS to ensure that it can be installed successfully on the computer. So before upgrade of an OS, you must be able to ensure that the hardware you have on the system in terms of the RAM size, the processor speed, all of that must be ascertained before you set up the upgrade. And then Microsoft provides the Get Windows 10 application that is automatically downloaded and installed via the Windows Update service on computers running on Windows 7, Service Pack 1, and Windows 8. So this is already there and is automatically downloaded and installed just to upgrade the system. But like we said, you need to check for compatibility of the hardware to make sure it meets the requirement. And Windows operating system upgrade still. At the version of the OS determine available upgrade options. For example, a 2-bit operating system cannot be upgraded to a 64-bit operating system. Windows 7 and Windows 8 can be upgraded to Windows 10, but Windows Vista and Windows XP cannot. So have in the back of your mind that looking at the forward compatibility for Windows Vista and Windows XP cannot be upgraded to Windows 10. The upgrade Windows of Windows 7 or Windows 8 to Windows 10 used the Windows 10 update, which is available online. As it's not available on the Download Windows 10 website, it walks you through all the steps in the Windows 10 process. That is, if you want to upgrade your Windows 7 on 8 to 10, you can actually do that through um, the 10 update assistant, which is available online. Computers running Windows XP or Windows Vista do not have an upgraded path to Windows 10 and require a clean installation. So Windows 10 installation media can be created using the Create Windows 10 installation media tool, which is also available on the Windows Assistant site. So data migration. When a new OS installation is needed, user data must be migrated from the old OS to the new one. As backup, the user state migration tool is a command utility to simplify user state migration, as moving it from the old to the new. So use Windows easy transfer when switching from an old computer to a new one. So PC Mover Express is a tool for transferring selected files, folders, profiles, and applications from an old Windows PC to a Windows 10 PC. So this installation of Windows. How do we install the Windows operating system? The two most before we do that, we have to look at the disk management. So storage device types. The two most common types of data storage device used today are disks, hard disk drives, and flash memory based drives such as solid state hard drives and USB. These are actually the most common type. When the storage device type has been chosen, it must be prepared to receive the new operating system. So modern operating system ship with an installer program. So installers usually prepare the disks to retrieve the operating system, but it's crucial for a technician to understand the terms and methods involved in this preparation. So what we're saying here is that the modern operating system ship with an installer program. It comes with it by default. So installer usually prepare the disks to receive the operating system. Okay, so hard drive partitioning is important to be able to partition the hard drive such that you can be able to create a backup, in the process. So finding and launching the operating system is one of the responsibilities of computer firmware, which needs to know the partition scheme. So two partition scheme standard and master boot record, which is the MBR, and globally unique identifier, the guild partition table. So we're looking at the two methods of partitioning here. So for the master boot record, which is the MBR, contains information how the hard drive partitions are organized. The MBR is 512 bytes long and contains the bootloader, an executable program that allows a user to choose from multiple operating systems. So MBR is commonly used in computer with BIOS-based firmware, and this is common with most of our HP, Dell systems. They all have the BIOS-based firmware, which enables you to be able to partition your system using this order. Then for the guild partition table, also designed as a partition table scheme standard for hard drive, the GBT, which is the guild partition table, makes use of a number of modern techniques to expand on the older MBR partitioning scheme, which is a legacy compared to this. GBT is commonly used in computers with UEFI firmware still with the BIOS, but you can see the UEFI is an extension of the BIOS system. So the MBR and the GTB comparison. So looking at the comparison of these two partitioning system. For the MBR, maximum of 4 primary partitions. For the GBT, it's maximum of 122 partitions in Windows. So maximum partition size is of 2 terabytes. The maximum partition size for the GPT is 9.4 gigabyte. So you can see that the GPT can actually do more in terms of partitioning of space than the MBR. So partition and boot data stored in one place, but partition and boot data stored in multiple locations across the disk. Any computer can boot from MBR. The computer must be of UEFI based and run a 64-bit OS. So this actually required an upgrade of the BIOS system, which is the UEFI, and then must be on 64-bit for you to run GPT. So the GPT is actually more modern than the MBR. Okay, so partition and logical drives. Here we're looking at the primary partition. We're looking at the active partition, extended partition, and logical drive. Basic disk, dynamic disk, and formatting. So the primary partition actually contains the OS file and is usually the first partition. Okay, so when you look at the hard drive, the first partition you have is the OS. That is where the operating system is before any other partition. If more than 4 partitions are needed on the MBR disk, one partition can be designated as an extended partition. Okay, so a logical drive is section of an extended partition used to separate the information for administrative purposes. All this we need to demonstrate this to our students using the different operating system to create this partition so they can see how partitions are actually created. Okay, a basic disk, the default contains partitions such as primary and extended, as well as logical drives, which are formatted for data storage. So the basic disk, which is default, contains partitions such as primary, extended, but when you actually format this, you can use it to actually do more storage. So a dynamic disk can create volumes that span across more than one disk. So we're looking at the different partitioning style. So for formatting, create a file system on a partition for file storage. Okay, so it depends on the formatting system you want to apply. So here we'll look at the different file systems that we created in the course of the formatting in partitioning. So here are 5 common file systems. One is the file allocation table, which is 32-bit by 32. It supports partition size up to 2 terabytes or to 2048 gigabyte, used by Windows XP and earlier OS. the file location. And then for the new technology file system, which is the NTFS, the NTFS was used for a long period of time uh, before the event of expert and the others. So for the NTFS, it supports partitioning size up to 16 hexabytes in theory. Okay, but the NTFS incorporates file system security features and extended attributes. So it has the security features which the FAT32 does not. So you will see here the additional features in terms of security. Okay, so the expert 64 created address some of the limitation of FAT32 and NTFS when formatting USB flash drive, such as file size and directory size. One of the primary advantages of expert is that it can support files larger than 4 gigabyte. So you could see here that in terms of supporting files, um, uh, partitioning, it can formatting, it can support up to 4 gigabytes. That's one of the advantages. And then a compact disk file system, which is specifically for optical disk media. This is specifically for optical disks, yeah. And then the NFS, which is the network file system, is a network-based file system. So even from the name, and then that allows file access over the network. So NFS is an open standard which allows anyone to implement it. Okay. So here's a video demonstration of the disk management which you need to watch, and then make sure the student also watch this. It will help them to see how to utilize disk management utility to customize disks on the machine, create logical drive partition and name it, create second logical drive within the logical drive, and name it, remove the partition. So I think it's quite interesting because with the demonstration, they'll be able to follow suit and get their system managed. So there's a need for them to watch this and then create this partition in the lab using the FAT32 and then NTFS to be able to see the difference between these two partitions. Okay, so installation and boot sequence. For the installation and boot sequence, so this has to be done in the lab. In this lab, you install the Windows 10 operating system. So they need to look at how to install the boot sequence operating system, which is important. Account creation. So we're looking at account creation in the course of Windows installation. So authentication is when a user enter a username and password to access a user account. So Windows use a single sign-on as the SS authentication, which allows users to log in once to access all system resources. So user accounts allow multiple users to share a single computer using their own files and settings. Windows 10 offers two account types, the administrator and standard user. So you can see it has two types. Okay. So administrator accounts have complete control over a computer. Users with this type of account can change settings globally and install programs. Standard user accounts have limited control over a computer. So users with this type of account can run applications, but they cannot install programs. That is when you create the administrative account and then you create another user account. So if somebody logs in with a guest account or the account that is not the administrative account, he can be able to install because he or she does not have the administrative rights. So in this case, it is only the administrator that can actually, uh, you know, make some changes from the settings. The other users are just meant to use applications that are installed by the administrator. So finalize the installation. So Windows Update. To update OS after the initial installation, Microsoft Windows Update is used to scan for new software and install service packs and patches for security purposes and in order to also strengthen the operating system and keeps it more active. So Disk Manager. After installation, verify that all hardware is installed correctly. The device manager is used to locate device problems and install the correct or update drivers in Windows. The figure shows the Windows update and device manager utilities on Windows 10. So finalize the lab installation. In this lab, you add user account and finalize the installation. So that means in the course of the installations, you get to this point where you need to add the user account and to finalize it. So this cloning is running always on multiple computers takes time, of course. And so one of the ways to make it faster is to clone. To simplify, administrators usually elect a computer to act as a base system and go through the regular operating system installation process. After the OS is installed in the base computer, a specific program is used to duplicate all the information on its disk, sector by sector, to add disks. So this new disk usually extend external device now contains a fully deployed operating system and can be used quickly, deploy a fresh copy of the base operating system and any install applications. So once this is cloned with the help of third-party application, you discover that you can actually have as many disks ready as possible. But one thing for sure with this is that you need to change the disk name, the hard drive name, because they are all going to have the same name. So that has to be changed once the clone is done, because you're going to have the same information of one disk to the other. That will be distributed among the new disks. So there's a need to change the naming convention. So other installation methods could also be network installation, so you can actually install across the network, and image-based internal partition installation is a Windows image stored an internal partition that can be used to restore Windows to its original state when it was shipped from the factory. So it always helps to bring back the system to its default state. Other types of custom installation, this includes Windows advanced startup options, refresh your PC system, restore, upgrade, repair installation. This is common with the constant installation. So you could limit it with Windows 10 under the custom option. When you press F2 for the setup, you can actually do repairs, you can do upgrade, you can do restore all these actual features that appears, which you can select from. Of course, each of these prepares the hard disks for for a new startup. Remember, if you're doing restore, it takes you to a previous state. If you're doing recovery partition, you're trying to recover partition, refresh. And then if you're doing repair, same, just to check if there are missing code in the operating system to help you to repair them. So remote network installation. Okay. So with remote network installation, the OS installation files are stored on the server. Okay. So the client computer can access the files remotely. As can access the file, with that's online. So a software package such as remote installation service communicate with the client, stores the set of files, and provide the necessary instructions for the client to access the set of files, download them, and begin the installation. So this is actually online based for the installation purpose. So it is actually predominantly used as compared to the other installation type. So unattended network installations. To perform a Windows unattended installation, setup.exe must be run on the user options found in the answer file. So instead of prompting the user, the setup uses the answers listed in the file, as you can see on the right hand side. So to customize the standard Windows 10 installation, use the System Image Manager, which is a SIM, to create this setup answer file. So the answer file is copied to the distribution shared folder on the server. So at this point, you can do one of the two things. So you can run the unattended bit file on the client machine to prepare the hard drive and install the OS from the server over the network. Okay, or you create a boot disk that boots the computer and connect to the distribution shared folder on the server. You then run a batch file containing a set of instructions to install the OS over the network. So we can still see this is still the network part, but then here is unattended network installation. But these are the two approaches that can be taken. So here's a video to watch to be able to familiarize ourselves with all what we've said. Okay, so recovery partition. So this is how recovery partitions are created. Some Windows computers contain a section of the disk that is inaccessible to the user. So this partition, called the recovery partition, contains an image that can be used to restore the computer to its original configuration. So this is actually a new partition UI comes default to the system, so that you can always call up, each time you have issues with the operating system, and then refresh the operating system for continued usage. So the upgrade method in place of upgrade. So you can upgrade your system. So this will upgrade the OS and migrate apps and settings to the new OS. So the System Center Configuration Manager. So we're looking at how it can be upgraded. So when upgrading Windows 7 or Windows 8 to Windows 10, the Windows installation program will perform an in-place upgrade that is already available in the operating system. So after that, you can clean install. Another way to upgrade to a new version of Windows is to perform a clean upgrade. So because a clean install wipe the drive completely, all files and data should be saved to some backup drive. So once you go to the search and you type upgrade, you see the different approaches of upgrading to the latest operating system. So this is a Windows boot sequence. After the post, which is the power on set test, the BIOS locates and reads the configuration settings stored in the CMOS, which is a complementary metallic oxide semiconductor memory. So the boot device priority is in the order in which you can see. So you can actually arrange it in an order such that it can read from the disk drive or maybe from the Flash. Remember, maybe you're using the MBR or you're using the GPT, whichever case it may be for you to be able to format or load the operating system. So the Windows 7 startup mode. So we can see we have different setup modes of Windows 7. We have the save mode with networking, the save mode with command prompt, last known configuration. So each of these will be selected based on Windows 7. For that of Windows 8 and 10, you don't have these settings. Then Windows 8 and 10 startup mode. So you can see that you can do this. So there's a difference between what you can do with the Windows 7 when it comes to startup mode and so Windows 8 and 10. At the point of startup, you can actually enable debugging, you can enable boot logging, you can enable low resolution video, you can enable save mode. You can only do this under the startup and select each of these keys, and then you're good to go. And so that actually brings us to the end of chapter 10. I will be entertaining questions of this chapter 10 in our next class, which is tomorrow, Saturday the 17th of July, 2021. So you can go through this, probably practice it today and see if you have challenges, issues, put them down, and then you can treat them tomorrow. And then please ensure you do your chapter exams. If there are any challenges, you let me know. Thank you very much for your attention. And I wish you guys a pleasant weekend. Thank you.